Добрый день, меня зовут Борис Baum, и мы благодарим SiGMA за возможность
Good
сегодня
afternoon.
провести нашу
My name is
дискуссию.
Boris, and we thank SiGMA for the opportunity to have our discussion today. This is a professional panel in which 5 expert members of the constitutional organization at the Gaming Commission of Ukraine participate. I will be pleased to introduce them.
Alina Plush, partner at Sayenko-Harenko. Alexei Demyanenko, partner at Esters. Alexander Ilkov, partner at Hillmont Partners.
And Artem Kuzmenko, Eterna Law Firm. Today, we will discuss 3 points with you: taxes, advertising, and certification. I'll probably start with taxes. I will make a small digression, and then I will give the floor to each of the experts, and we will discuss these points. As for taxes on gambling business, we will not discuss what taxes we have in the tax code today. It is all there. It is high. On Monday, March 22nd, a regular meeting of the Verkhovna Rada Committee on Taxes will be held, at which the changes registered in the law 27/13D, which will be submitted to the hall, will be discussed. The changes that will be made there now concern the following points. It is proposed to introduce a single GGR rate of 10% for all type of activities. A zero tax is offered on winnings of amounts up to 10 minimum wages, that is 60,000 hryvnia today. This is approximately $2,200. Over this amount, taxes are levied in accordance with Ukrainian legislation. In the amount of 19.5%, that is 18% income tax, and 1.5%, this is a military fee. Income tax remains in accordance with our laws. An important point is that it reduces the tax base with GGR, meaning this expense is written off, and after writing off this expense, the profit tax is calculated, which never was the case before. A very important change in this law is that we want to exclude the amendment in which there is a triple license payment, which was tied to the implementation of an online monitoring system. That is, this clause will be deleted. Accordingly, all market operators will pay a simple license fee, which is spelled out in the law, and immediately pay GGR. We are awaiting confirmation on March 22nd, and we hope that by the end of February, we will have passed the first reading, and by the end of March, I really hope, we will pass the second reading, and new amendments to the tax code will be adopted. But even at the first reading, the direction will be given to the market, and I think that we will remove this issue. That's all from my side for now. Let me give the floor to Alina Plushich to comment, and then we will briefly discuss these issues. Let's exchange views and so on. Alina, please.
Дальше мы коротко обсудим эти вопросы. Давайте обменяемся мнениями и так далее. Алина, прошу.
Good afternoon. Of course, this will be a very positive signal to the market because we have a lot of clients from foreign operators who are interested, and the main constraint is still taxes, i.e. misunderstanding of what will happen to taxes. And of course, the threefold size also scares many because for them it is a significant investment to enter a new unfamiliar market and immediately pay a threefold license size. These are pretty big risks. Therefore, if indeed, as you say, it will be adopted in the first reading, I believe that it will be positively received by the players. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexander, what do you have to say?
Да, здравствуйте, коллеги.
Boris, well, after such a speech,
of course, it is more difficult to comment because the key problem that lawyers and foreign operators see, they seem to be solved by the changes that were proposed in 27-13. Indeed, I can confirm what Alina said about the position of the international operators. GGR for them is probably the most understandable and the most correct tax that was invented for taxation in the field of gambling. And therefore, they were ready to really pay it from day one. Therefore, these provisions are welcome. Limitations of winnings that are not subject to personal income tax. Most likely, we understand that this is the compromise that we are forced to make, because it is clear that society has a rather ambiguous attitude towards the fact that gambling winnings are exempt from tax, although everyone understands that it is generally accepted practice to build a successful legal business. Without it, it will be difficult in Ukraine. Thank you.
Легальный бизнес в Украине будет сложным. Да, спасибо.
Благодарю. Алексей?
Alexei, please.
Добрый день. Объем рынка в Украине достаточно.
Good afternoon. The volume of the gambling market in Ukraine is quite significant, and, of course, it arouses the appetite of operators, even despite the current taxation. I would say the most amount of comments were caused by the triple royalty. And if the Commission with the Supreme Council succeeds in cancelling and annulling this requirement in the near future, operators will be even more interested in entering the market as quickly as possible.
Операторов с тем, чтобы максимально быстро на рынок заходить. Спасибо.
Thank you. Artem, we are listening to you now.
Добрый день. Я хотел бы отметить, действительно важная позиция по налогам. Она обсуждается достаточно давно, и весь рынок на сегодняшний день...
Good afternoon. I would like to point out a really important position on taxes. For a long time, it has been discussed that the entire market and all of our clients, foreign companies first of all, are waiting for this bill. Because today's mathematics is designed for calculating financial models and operators, and they do not allow adequately doing business with such tax rates, which we have today.
Достаточно быстро, потому что нельзя больше затягивать с этим. И
Therefore, we unequivocally welcome this step that must be taken quickly, because it cannot be delayed any longer.
действительно, это, наверное, компромиссное.
Global practice is slightly different, but at the same time, this threshold should be sufficient for the mass market, and operators should be sensitive to this.
Достаточно для массового рынка, и операторы должны с пониманием к этому относиться. Я думаю, что это будет хороший индикатив, который...
I think that this will be a good initiative, which must be taken forward in the near future in order for all the market to continue to develop. We see a huge interest in it, and the elimination of all the problems that exist today, of course, will allow us to make a significant leap forward. Thank you.
Существенный прыжок сделать в развитии рынка. Спасибо.
Thank you. We are moving forward. I really hope that soon we will receive at least an indication from the committee. Of course, we will observe how the audience will vote. But there are insiders that we are ready for this. Everyone has already prepared. There is the will of both the faction and the president. Let's move on to the second question, probably shorter, which is less controversial. It is certification. This problem exists. We all know it. Let's make a little update. I want you to help us, because here we also have legal incidents. As for the equipment certification, we have the following problem and the solution to the problem. Today, the Commission has already submitted documents, and we are already waiting for the investment in the Ministry of Justice of a document on the list of equipment that needs to be certified. After that, as you know, we continue to turn to NAAU, the National Accreditation Agency of Ukraine, with a request to provide us with a list of those entities that can certify in accordance with the standards or provisions for the certification of this equipment. The good news is that we have received a fairly convincing confirmation that there are DSTUs in Ukraine that correspond to the list of equipment that needs to be certified. That is already a plus. Yes, they are outdated. Yes, some in 2012, some in 2009, but they exist nonetheless. And this allows us today, in fact, to launch a market for ground-based operations. Allow us to launch an online market because we will be able to certify an online system. But nevertheless, I want to make the following statement. According to the law, the Commission is obliged to develop a new technical regulation for certification of equipment and adapt it in accordance with the current changes, taking into account the requirements of modern equipment and operators. Already in the Commission under the IEP, we had a subgroup. We met yesterday with manufacturers, with operators. Manufacturers clearly understand that we are ready to provide with pleasure, without practice, how we see it and how it is abroad, and we have materials. The problem is that, unfortunately, technical changes in the DSTU when creating a new regulation can take from 6 to 10 months on formal dates. We will be watching this process. Therefore, today we want to launch this temporary certification mechanism, and by the end of the year have already done everything so that all these norms comply with European standards and offer the market perfectly understandable, transparent, modern mechanisms. Regulators who can satisfy in terms of correctness of equipment, reliability, its frame, honesty, confirmation of certificates, a real random number generator, and so on. We will also participate in this process today and understand it. And I think it will be necessary to calm down the market of foreign operators, that we are not creating any bottleneck. This is an open procedure. There will be a lot of companies whose certificates we will accept. We really hope this will be the second question for Alina, that can still come to development of those regulations, to the fact that such large operators as GLI, BMM, and the Gaming Association will be able to open representative offices here. We will be able to do so due to the fact that they are accredited. We will help them in this. I hope that we will be able to accept the certificates for these companies, because we understand that the creation of laboratories and testing centers in Ukraine is such a complex and lengthy process. We really hope that we will be able to cooperate with these companies, and they will help us to simplify at least this process, which is clear to everyone. This is such a general overview of information. So let's discuss two questions. What is happening with us? How do we see the launch of the market? And in the future, how do we see the work of integration of foreigners and foreign laboratories in our market? Alina, please, let's start with you again.
Thank you, Boris. Yes, of course. We all understand that the way in which certificates are compiled to the old DSTU is certainly imperfect. It is necessary now for the market to work normally, and we are all moving in the direction of recognizing international certificates, and companies such as, for example, GLI, are very interested in the Ukrainian market. They expressed their interest and willingness to work with the Advisory Expert Council and to help both in the development of technical regulations and the procedure for recognition of certificates. So I hope that, as Boris said, by the end of this year, this procedure will somehow be established so that foreign operators can either use their foreign certificates that they have or some kind of procedure for their recognition and adaptation according to Ukrainian standards.
Thank you. Alexander, please comment on the above.
Yes, of course. This is a very important question, and it seems to me that in this very issue, we should focus primarily on the best world practices, because when you start explaining to a foreigner operator about what we have there in DSTU, it is quite difficult to perceive. People have been working in all regulated markets for many years. they have passed all possible certifications from the best companies. But continuing on your thought, they need to come to Ukraine to receive a certificate from the Brovary Scientific Research Center. Undoubtedly, this message is very difficult to convey. So it seems to me that the steps that we have begun to take within the framework of the IEP, the first is the possibility of recognizing international certificates that are definitely issued by authoritative institutions. And we understand to whom they will be issued, again to operators who have been operating for many years in different markets. This is definitely the right step. Another possible way is the actual recognition of the certificates held by the operators. In many countries, they have followed the path when the operators themselves are certified, i.e. for compliance with the standards. The so-called ISO 27001 is an information security certificate. This is the most relevant certificate for gambling. It provides certification for all equipment, payment systems, security systems, and work with personal data. And many countries have followed the path of direct operator certification without the need for an additional intermediate link in the form of laboratories. It seems to me that it would also be advisable to consider the experience and to try to implement it in Ukraine. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Alexei, please.
Yes, I would say that the issue of certification for foreign operators is perhaps even more significant than the tax issue. More significant, and it definitely requires a quick resolution. And it is very good that the Commission is now making every effort to do this. There may be a transit and intermediate route with obtaining local certification according to the DSTU. But of course this does not cancel other parallel work on the recognition of international certificates, on the signing of international agreements. Therefore, I would say that there are at least two roads, one of which is faster for implementation, the second will also be implemented, which I would like to count on.
100%. Artem, please, your comment.
Yes, I will try to be short since we have several minutes left. I would like to say that it is wrong to call the path that now exists as some kind of transit or intermediate. This is the only way that is provided by the current legislation, since the Commission is obliged to work within the conditions of the current legislation. Accordingly, of course, parallel work is important and necessary. It must be done. But today, there is such a regulatory framework according to which it is possible to certify this or that equipment. Such a possibility exists. In fact, it's not very difficult or scary. Therefore, foreign operators who have an interest in entering can already go through this process and they do not need to take much time. Accordingly, when the Commission is open, you can come and receive certificates. There is nothing wrong. And after the Commission has worked on the new regulations, it will be possible to supply new equipment in accordance with other certification rules. But today, we can say that the market is ready and the Commission is ready to work. Accordingly, there are no barriers to launching the market. Thank you.
Нет никаких преград для того, чтобы запускать рынок. Спасибо.
Спасибо, Артем. Но я бы хотел, Алексей, немножко...
Thank you, Artem. But I would like to comment a little as a message to our future foreign partners. Look, for example, the tax history, nevertheless, I believe that it is important because it raises barriers to economic decisions that are very easy to make. Go or do not go. Certification, server issues, and so on are already a question of a certain barrier, emotional and technical. I would like to make an official statement that the Commission today and in Ukraine may be the only body that will only create favorable conditions and proposals, and not try to somehow drive the business into a bottleneck. This is a very important message that we want to say. Yes, we understand that certification is some kind of problem, but this does not mean that the Commission will chase the operator and point out that you do not have such a certificate. This is a very important condition. On the contrary, we want to show the market that the Commission is open. We are working. Do not be afraid to start. We still have time. We have already received a huge amount of recognition today from operators and regulators who said that you guys are making the impossible possible. We want to continue on this path, this speed, and I want to assure you, our customers, that the Commission is ready to officially confirm that we do not use any shortcomings and will not use it in order to somehow restrict the activities of operators. Such an important message. I hope you understand what I mean. That is, on the contrary, we are promoting openness and we want this body, a regulator in the gambling business, which is considered the most biased, to make it the most open and good, and not some kind of punitive body. And the last topic we will discuss is also very painful, but less important. It is more needed for the domestic market, the problem of advertising. I have nothing to say about advertising, except that we had a discussion recently. It is clear that advertising is prohibited, but in general, it is prohibited, no matter whether there is a license or not. But the main point that revolts me is that I am the father of 6 children, and I certainly do not understand. We are now discussing with major operators. Guys, I go to Baskino to watch a cartoon, and a child looks at free spins. I don't understand this. They say, well, it's not forbidden. Here's the topic. Well, not prohibited. Therefore, we will advertise. Well, he asked such an open question. Therefore, Alina, what do you think? Because once again, foreigners asks, they are advertised, but we cannot. What do you think about that? What do we do?
Что будем делать?
Ну, мне
Такой
кажется, что...
вопрос.
Мне кажется,
Подискутировать 3 минуты. Но...
да, что правильно...
When it will be clear that advertising continues with those operators who have not applied for a license and are not going to receive it, but going to receive just some kind of competitive advantage due to the fact that they do not pay for a license or GGR, then of course it will be necessary to show the active position of the Commission that it will start fighting illegal advertising. The law provides the Commission's powers with the rights to impose fines. The fine is quite substantial, from 1 to 8 million hryvnia. Well, besides, you can take the experience of other countries and fight in the same way with the help of payments, so as not to let payments through banks and payment systems. The law also stipulates that banks and payment systems are obliged not to pass payments to the benefit of unregistered operators.
операторов. То есть я считаю, что если совокупные...
So your idea is to wait for now, to see what happens. But nevertheless, I believe that in any case, we still need to provide some position to the legal commission. We need to understand what we can do.
Of course, I say we can impose fines. First of all, it seems to me that this is the easiest, specifically for advertising platforms that place advertisements, either of the brand under which gambling will be carried out or gambling operators, and to show that the Commission is serious and that there will be no illegal advertising.
Thank you. Alexander, what do you think?
Yes, but the issue of advertising for all businesses of this kind, which is perfectly legal, but nevertheless poses a certain danger in the event of abuse for society, is a key issue. And many markets, like alcohol and tobacco, have already passed through this history, and we can state that today there are no gross violations and distortions. This is on the one hand. On the other hand, advertising is certainly not prohibited in our country. It is very strongly limited by law, and we all understand that this is one of the ways to convey a marketing position. And of course, when we see facts of abuse, it distorts amongst other things. Competition in the market, and we will understandably already mention the questions asked by foreign operators. Well, Here it is important to share that we may have instances of legal advertising on the part of legitimate operators, and there is legal advertising that is conducted by illegal operators, including on illegal resources. All three factors are present, and of course, it is the most difficult to deal with this. But I would consider it as a complex counter-reaction to the illegal market, because the more legal operators that come here, the more they will be interested in the marketing being as legal as possible. And it seems to me that sooner or later, the Commission will have to act according to the carrot and stick strategy, showing its strength and turning on enforcement in order to fight illegal control in the market. Thank you.
Легальным. И, мне кажется, что рано или поздно комиссии придется действовать по стратегии stick and carrot, да, кнута и пряника, и в том числе показывать свою силу и включать enforcement для того, чтобы бороться с незаконными проявлениями на рынке. Спасибо.
Thank you. Alexei, what do you think?
I think this is a matter of great social importance, and, of course, the Commission is not the only body that is called upon to monitor compliance with advertising rules. It is good that the Commission has allies from the Anti-Monopoly Committee, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Advertising Department under the administrations. I think that over time, protocols and smooth interaction between these bodies will appear. They will allow you to effectively address advertising violations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Artem, please tell us your opinion.
Yes, thanks. Advertising is definitely important, and I would like to go back in time a little. During the preparation of the bill, our natural restriction on advertising was not as strict as it is in other jurisdictions, so a loyal bill was prepared, which the deputies have adopted. And accordingly, since the new market will be formed, it is necessary to provide operators with some opportunities to advertise their activities. Therefore, they did not apply sufficiently serious restrictions, but at the same time provided for a rather serious liability for violation of the rules already in the law. Therefore, the position here is unambiguous. The laws must be respected, and the Commission must respond to manifestations of illegal activity. The Commission has all the tools for this, and obviously, in the future, they will tighten these advertising rules, since today there are few restrictions online. Therefore, I am sure that today, when coming to the market, operators will have even more opportunities to present their brand to the Ukrainian consumer. But over time, it will become more and more difficult.
Но со временем это будет становиться все сложнее и сложнее.
Спасибо, Артем. Ну, согласен.
Thank you, Artem. I agree. Colleagues, I thank you all. Once again, I want to thank all our esteemed viewers and participants of this roadshow and today's discussion. Once again, I would like to remind you that these are all representatives of the Advisory Expert Council at the Gaming Commission. Thank you for your help. We must move, and once again, I ask you to convey a positive message to clients. To say that our market is opening and that through joint efforts, we will complete it. And I think that the market can work. Now the key stages must pass with the tax legislation. I think that this is the only thing that actually holds us back today, so that there is already a complete picture. Thank you for this discussion. Thank you so much. I hope that soon we will be able to tell everything to everyone and keep the whole world informed about how the gambling business is developing in Ukraine. Many thanks.
Большое спасибо.